Hello, and welcome to the Lee&LowBooks Fall 2023 and Spring 2024 Seasonal Showcase. I'm Sarah Hunter, Books for Youth and Graphic Novels Editor at Booklist, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a white woman with shoulder-length blonde hair, and I'm wearing glasses and a pink shirt with white buttons. I'm sitting in front of a bookshelf, some artwork, and a couple of houseplants. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Thanks to our friends at Lee&LowBooks, we are thrilled to be able to offer ASL interpretation during today's webinar. Today's interpreters will be visible at the top right corner of the screen throughout the program. Additionally, Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select Show or Hide Captions from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Subtitle Settings. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by copying the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. And finally, Booklist expects all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. Anyone who violates this standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. We have a wonderful event planned for you today. So without further ado, I'll pass things off to the Lee&Low team.
Thanks, Sarah. Welcome, everyone, to Lee&Low's Fall 2023 and Spring 2024 Seasonal Showcase. My name is Jenny Choi. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an East Asian Native Hawaiian woman with tan skin and long, straight black hair. I'm wearing a black dress with a brown floral design. And there's a beautiful shelf of Lee&Low books right behind me. I'm the marketing director at Lee&Low, the largest multicultural publisher in the country. As a family-owned and minority-owned business, we are dedicated to one mission: publishing books that affirm the identities of every reader and connecting all readers with our ever more diverse world. Hence our motto, about everyone, for everyone. We're thrilled to be joined today by beloved author Hena Khan. I'm sure many of y'all have Hena's books on your shelves, like Under My Hijab, Golden Domes and Silver Lanterns, and Amina's Voice. Hena will be in conversation with Booklist Sarah Hunter, who you just heard from, following our book buzz. You'll get the scoop on her latest picture books, ZAIN'S Super Friday, and Behind My Doors. Find out more about Hena and her books on her website, henakhan.com, and on Instagram at henakhanbooks. Speaking alongside me today are my excellent marketing and editorial colleagues, Jen, Candace, Shaughnessy, and Stephanie. They'll each introduce themselves as we move through our presentations, and I'm excited for you to meet them. Head over to Edelweiss to browse our most recent catalogs. There you'll also find digital review copies of many of the titles we'll be discussing today. Our website, Lee&Low.com, is chock full of incredible resources like our robust teacher's guides. Our open book blog regularly features wonderful guest posts from our creators, as well as themed reading lists. And follow at Lee&Low on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter to keep up on all the latest bookish news. We hope y'all like us are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month with stories from Latinx creators. According to the US Census, there are more than 40 million Spanish-speaking readers and language learners in the US. That's the fourth largest Spanish-speaking population in the world. We hope you'll add these libros en español to your collections for this flourishing demographic. We have a truly impressive list of Spanish language and bilingual titles. The books you see on screen are just a small sampling of what we have to offer. And in case you missed it, Cinco Puntos Press is now an imprint of Lee&Low. For 36 years, the El Paso-based publisher championed Chicano writers and focused on stories from the border. We're honored to be their new home and continue the legacy established by founders Lee Bird and the late Bobby Bird. And now I'll turn it over to our picture book editors to dive into our title presentation.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Frescas Macias. I'm the editorial assistant at Lee&Low, and my pronouns are she, hers. I'm a tan Mexican woman with long black hair. I'm wearing a semi-sheer white top, and I'm sitting in front of a white wall and a bookshelf with picture books. We're kicking off our list of new titles with Connor Kiss Me, an empowering and realistic picture book by debut author Sehava and illustrator Sarah K. Turner. Simple text, repetition, and lively expressive illustrations make this a perfect introduction to consent for emerging readers, unpacking a common scenario. First grader Miriam is surprised with a kiss by her classmate Connor, but after having some time and help processing her feelings, she gains the confidence to set firm boundaries. With fun background details that capture the chaos of a first grade class, we see Miriam sharing the incident with her best friend and adults around her. Different emotions cycle through her face each time. Anger, hurt, confusion. Adult reactions to Miriam also vary, mirroring typical responses to quote-unquote playground kisses. But Miriam's mom responds with a question no one else asked. Did she want Connor to kiss her? With her mom's encouragement, Miriam is able to come back to school to confidently and joyfully express her bodily autonomy. Author Sehava says she was inspired to write Connor Kiss Me by the many Connors and Miriams she's seen at her current job as head librarian at a K-12 school in Montreal, Canada, saying, "Even when given in innocence, though, kissing is an invasion of personal space, and kids have to be taught that it is an exchange that requires permission." The bulletin of the Center for Children's Books called Connor Kiss Me invaluable for teaching about consent, saying, "It exudes vibrancy and movement, easily catching and maintaining attention. In succinct and instructive language, the book successfully conveys the message about the importance of using your voice." Connor Kiss Me was released just yesterday, September 19th, so you can pick up the book for yourself now. And changing gears, we have a deeply touching picture book originally published in Iran, titled Empty and Me, A Tale of Friendship and Loss, written by Azam Makhdavi, illustrated by Mariam Takhmusebi, and translated by Parisa Saranj. In sparse side-by-side Persian and English text, this picture book gently depicts a little girl rediscovering joy while living with Empty, a quiet creature that embodies her grief after the death of her mother. Empty accompanies the little girl everywhere, the bus, walking through her neighborhood, the dinner table, portraying how acutely we can feel in absence. Soft artwork first reflects the little girl's loneliness, with muted dark colors and a lot of open space between her and other people. Then, a plant that the little girl potted with her mom flowers. When the girl gives Empty a flower, the gentle giant becomes more than just a reminder of her mother's absence. It's also a reminder of the joy they shared. Empty stays with her, but the little girl starts letting others get closer, and more colors emerge in the artwork as she shares new moments of joy with them. With clear, succinct text and a sweetness to Empty's design, this book provides a comforting starting point to a discussion about loss, due to death or otherwise. Empty and Me has received some exciting accolades, is a Junior Library Guild selection, and School Library Journal praised the book in a starred review, recommending it as a strong purchase to introduce loss and not incidentally expose students to translated works. Empty and Me was created by a team of Iranian women, and it marks the U.S. debut for both author Azam Makhdavi as well as illustrator Mariam Takhmusebi, both of whom reside in Tehran. Translator Parisa Saranj is currently based in Baltimore. Empty and Me will be available soon, coming out on October 3rd.
Hi, everyone. My name is Candace Costin, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a brown-skinned woman with dark hair, and I'm wearing glasses and a blue sweater. The background behind me is a plain white wall with one piece of artwork. I'm an editor at Lee&LowBooks, and I'm excited to share with you our next picture book, Miles of Style, written by Lisa D. Brathwaite and illustrated by Lynn Gaines. This fabulous biography introduces readers to Eunice W. Johnson, co-founder of the iconic Ebony magazine and Ebony's famous fashion fair. This picture book celebrates the life of a Black businesswoman and pioneer in the fashion world. Eunice grew up believing that beauty and dignity were things everyone should experience. She loved to sew and designed clothes for her dolls because she liked them to be well dressed. Eunice had a flair for fashion, and there were no rules in her fashion world. As an adult, Eunice and her husband, John H. Johnson, noticed that newspapers and magazines often printed stories that showed Black people in a negative light. They decided to publish a magazine that featured positive news about Black Americans and their communities. They established Ebony Magazine, and it quickly became the premier lifestyle publication for mid-century Black readers. In 1958, Eunice launched a project that would change the fashion industry forever, the Ebony Fashion Fair. In towns and cities across the United States, Black models walked the runway in the freshest trends, and Black attendees got to see people who looked like them in bright colors and high-end attire. To make the show happen every year, Eunice negotiated with snobby fashion houses in Europe and navigated racism back home in the US to acquire the most eye-catching styles for her show. Decades later, her name remains a watchword for glamour and elegance in the Black community. Miles of Style celebrates a visionary who used her influence to showcase the strength and beauty of Black community. Robust back matter includes photos and an author's note that celebrates the Ebony Fashion with more info about Mrs. Johnson's many initiatives to educate and empower Black designers and creators. This fabulous book will strut onto bookshelves February 6th.
Jenny here to share about Flap Your Hands. According to recent estimates from the CDC, an average of 1 in every 36 8-year-old children has autism spectrum disorder. Few picture books speak directly to these kiddos and their caregivers, and even fewer are written and illustrated by people who are on the spectrum themselves. In Flap Your Hands, debut author Steve Aspel shares a glimpse of what overstimulation can feel like for young autistic people and the calming effects of stimming, a repetitive, self-stimulating behavior to channel our energy. With delightful text and vibrant kinetic illustrations, the book follows 4 neurodivergent young people as they navigate some stressful situations and use body movements to self-regulate their emotions. One child tickles the space next to their face. Another kicks their feet like splashy flippers. As the children say fun words, flap their hands, and engage in other stims, their actions build an energy and joyfulness until their inner calm is restored. In an author's note at the beginning of the book, Steve lets us know we all engage in stimming, tapping our feet, pacing back and forth while talking on the phone, or twirling our hair. It's just that stims for autistic folks may appear more overt or dramatic. Steve wrote Flap Your Hands in the hopes that autistic children can find pride and self-acceptance. He invites all of us to stim along and help normalize what already feels so normal for autistics like himself. Flap Your Hands is a wonderful celebration of stimming and a vital reminder that stimming is a natural and healthy thing to do. Make sure this one is on your shelves come March 2024.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Kawam. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the marketing assistant here at Lee&LowBooks. I am a light-skinned Arab American woman with long wavy brown hair. I am wearing glasses, a blue jean jacket, and a floral yellow jumpsuit. And I'm sitting in front of a wall of bookshelves filled with various Lee&Low picture books and novels. Next up, from the much-loved creators of Zombies Don't Eat Veggies, Jorge Lacera and Megan Lacera, comes The Wild Ones, and its simultaneously published Spanish edition, Los Bravos. With this graphic novel-style picture book comes a heartwarming and epic tale of 4 best friends who turn to the mythical monsters from their respective cultures to help them save the only home they've ever known. Meet Valentina and her best friends Jasmine, Andy, and Xander. They've lived in the Wild Oaks apartment, building their entire lives. They are the Wild Ones. Legend has it there's a monstro lurking deep in the forest of their town. No one has ever seen it, but the Wild Ones believe it exists. But something's going on that's more menacing than any monstro. Greedy developers want to tear down their home. The wild ones know what they have to do: find the monstro and convince it to help them save their home. The Wild Ones brings a fun, diverse twist for young audiences to pop culture's fascination with monsters and folklore, and will appeal to the nostalgia of movies and TV shows set in the 1980s. Think of things like The Goonies and Stranger Things. The monsters come from various cultures, including Caribbean, South American, Irish, Gaelic, and Indian cultures. The Laceras said, "We thought it would be fun and cool to feature monsters from various cultures, especially if the monsters reflected the cultural roots of our characters. Instead of seeing these monsters as scary figures, we imagined them as protectors of human characters, protectors of their uniqueness, and ultimately believers in the kids who believe in them." The Laceras also thought it important to reflect the fight against gentrification. In their own words, they said, "Believing in your full self and in your true friends can be extremely powerful forces." Join the Wild Ones on this epic adventure on April 9th, 2024.
Hi, my name is Shaughnessy Miller. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the marketing associate here at Lee&Low. I am a white woman with long brown curly hair. I'm wearing a green and white striped top, and I'm sitting in front of a bookshelf. The next title I'm going to share is Pedro's Yo-Yos, the backstory of one of America's favorite toys and a Lee&Low New Voices Award winner. In this picture book biography, we learn how an immigrant from the Philippines turned a childhood toy into a household must-have for children in the United States and all over the world. Growing up in the Philippines in the early 1900s, Pedro Flores and his friends would often play with a toy called the yo-yo, which means come back in Tagalog. The Philippines was governed by Spain. Then the US took over, and Filipino people struggled for a long time for their freedom. Pedro decided to leave home in search of work. After working in pineapple fields, on a steamship, and as a bellhop, he found an opportunity to go into business for himself, the yo-yo. With a couple of blocks of wood and a little string, Pedro created his first model yo-yo and practiced tricks to show it off. Soon, every child wanted one for themselves. This colorful and lively biography showcases one immigrant's ups and downs as an entrepreneur and his determination to create a toy that would capture the imagination of children and adults all over the world. Young readers will also learn about starting a business and how clever marketing and determination ensured this popular toy's success. Pedro's Yo-Yos also addresses the fraught history of the Philippines and introduces children to the United States history of colonialism. We see from Pedro's perspective and others who are colonized what it feels like and how they are affected. Pedro's Yo-Yos will be available in April 2024.
Hi everyone, it's Candace again, and I'm excited to talk about Watt Takes His Shot, the life and legacy of basketball hero Wataru Misaka, written by Cheryl Kim and illustrated by Nat Iwata. This high-energy biography celebrates Watt Misaka, the first non-white person to play in the NBA. As a kid growing up in Ogden, Utah, Watt raced to the park where his Japanese-American community came together to play basketball. He wasn't the tallest on the team, but he was fast and he loved the game. Encouraged by his father to always do his best, Watt applied this mindset to every aspect and challenge in his life. Watt was a college student during World War II. He overcame racism to claim his spot on Utah University's basketball team, but despite his impressive skills, he was treated as an outsider because he was Japanese American. Watt still brought his best to every game. His team player mentality made him shine on and off the court, and he became an inspiration to his Japanese American community. Watt was drafted by the New York Knicks in 1947, the same year that Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball. Graphic novel-esque illustrations bring Watt's story to vibrant life, and a thoughtful author's note offers more information about Watt after his NBA career. Don't miss your shot at a copy of this book when it comes out June 19th.
It's Shaughnessy again. Next up, we have middle grade and young adult novels. Get ready for the next installment in the Shadow Prince series by David Anthony Durham. This action-packed series is perfect for high-low readers and fans of Rick Riordan Presents books. They are high-energy, diverse fantasies full of Egyptian mythology to boot. The series is also full of STEM connections and explores a genre called solar punk, featuring innovation, community, and technology powered by renewable energy. As in book 1, Set, the devious god of chaos, is back at his tricks. He has rid Egypt of the sun god Ra and plunged the kingdom into never-ending night. Especially disastrous since this reimagined Egyptian setting runs on solar power. But Ash, Prince Khufu, Seret, Gilly, and their new friends are determined to brave the Duat, or the Egyptian underworld, to fight demons, dodge peril, and rescue Lord Ra. The Shadow Prince, book 1 in the series, is a mashup of The Hunger Games and Aru Shah and the End of Time. There's an excellently narrated audiobook that will hook readers and leave them yearning for more adventures with Ash and his friends. David Anthony Durham is a popular fantasy author for adults and is bringing his talents to young people for the first time in this series. David says, "I want to take all sorts of kids on adventures, through dangers, forming friendships, learning and growing wiser and kinder in the process. This sort of writing is a bit more fun than my adult books, but it's no less important. In some ways, it's probably more important." His writing is fast-paced and exciting. The plot will keep you on your toes, and each book wraps up in the most satisfying way. As George R.R. Martin says, David Anthony Durham never disappoints. I can't wait to read whatever he writes next. The Longest Night in Egypt will be available next week. In 2008 Chicago, in the Southside community of Washington Park, Montgomery Monty Carver hoped for the best summer ever. Unfortunately, things aren't going as planned. Monty is struggling to prove to his parents that he's old enough to be on his own without adult supervision. A series of bad choices leads Monty to find a golden key in Old Lady Jenkins' sunflowers. As Monty uses his beloved scientific method to unravel the mystery of the key, he makes discoveries about the history of Washington Park and the broader Black community. Though he continually stumbles into trouble, you can't help but root for and fall in love with Montgomery. This book is bursting with Black boy joy and brimming with fascinating and little-known Black history. Young readers will learn about the hidden history of horse racing in Washington Park and the Black jockeys who raced. They'll also see how Black cowboy culture is alive and well. The book weaves in other elements of Chicago history in 2008, including Barack Obama's run for president and the city's bid to host the 2016 Olympic Games. Tracy Akami Crowder is a community organizer who has worked to address issues of racial equity across Illinois for the past 30 years, particularly in housing and education. In this work, she brought recess back to Chicago public schools. Tracy is the winner of the Lee&Low New Visions Award, and this is her debut middle grade novel. Montgomery and the Case of the Golden Key publishes on October 10th.
Jennifer here again. Kicked Out is a companion to A.M. Dasu's acclaimed middle grade novel, Boy Everywhere, which received 3-star reviews, including one from Kirkus, calling it compelling, informative, hopeful. In the standalone story set in the same world, Az invites readers into the lives of friends Adam and Ali. Adam is a Syrian refugee, an unaccompanied minor living in the UK, offering a window into the everyday lives and challenges of migrants in a new country, especially as a young person who is being treated as an adult, despite still being a child, and is unable to attend school due to financial concerns. Meanwhile, Adam's friend Ali is navigating an absent father who is suddenly turning up everywhere in town, along with a half-brother Ali didn't know about. Divorce within Muslim families is often unexplored in Kidlit, and here we see how this affects one young person in such a family. When speaking about the book, A.M. Dasu said, "Kicked Out looks at what it's like to be an unaccompanied young person and empowers readers, showing how we can all step up to help. I hope through Ali, readers will see how resilient young people can be, and that how people treat you or whether they choose to be absent from your life is not a reflection of you and has no bearing on who you are and who you will become." With Kicked Out, Az adds to the steadily growing number of middle grade books starring young Muslim boys just living their everyday lives with family, friends, school, and more. Kicked Out releases on April 23rd, 2024, and be sure to visit the We Need Diverse Books blog where A.M. Dasu did a great Q&A about the book and what inspired her to write it.
It's Jenny again. In this companion to best-selling and highly acclaimed Yummy, Coretta Scott King honor-winning author Jean Neary returns with an epic journey across the south side of Chicago for three young people as they set out to find an armored truck that has lost a payload of cash. Like all of Greg's books, Safe Passage is inspired by a real-life Chicago, all of Greg's books are inspired by real-life things. Safe Passage is inspired by a real-life Chicago Public Schools program of the same name. It was established in 2009 to address the everyday reality of going to school in a time of mass proliferation of mini gangs in the city. Vetted grown-ups from within the community are posted on certain routes to provide kids a safe way to walk to school. Greg dedicates the book to the thousands of students in Chi-Town who participate in the program and the nearly 1,300 Safe Passage workers trying to keep them safe. In the book, 13-year-old Darius and his little sister Sissy cross 4 different gang territories every day to get to school. They know the protocol: walk in groups, stay in the middle of the road, keep your head on a swivel, and be prepared to run. They know that if they wander off the Safe Passage path, it's at their own peril. So when Darius's best friend, Booger, hears a rumor that a Brinks truck has crashed on the interstate, the boys, followed by Sissy, ditch school and set out to find a lost bundle of bills that could save Darius's family from eviction and change their lives forever. Darius, Sissy, and Booger soon discover that getting home in one piece isn't guaranteed when viral rumors start flying on social media that they're far from home and carrying a bag full of money. Safe Passage is an epic hero's tale of a journey from an award-winning creative team. Author Jean Neary has received many honors and awards across multiple disciplines and has a long history of working to elevate Black voices in the arts. Artist David Brame has received nominations from the Eisner Awards and Locus, as well as his work being in a GLAAD award-winning anthology. Safe Passage has already garnered amazing praise from the likes of John Jennings, Roro III, and Tony Medina. Definitely add this one to the top of your to-be-read pile for March 2024.
Jennifer again. A searing contemporary young adult novel, When a Brown Girl Flees by Amna Qureshi, follows Zahra Paracha after she has made a decision that is at odds with her beliefs. Because of this, her mother forces Zahra to make an impossible choice about her future, so Zahra runs away. A train and a plane ride later, she finds herself in New York, where she relinquishes her past in favor of a new future. There, she must learn who she is without the marionette strings of control in her mother's hands. There, she must learn who she wishes to become. It is in this place of safety, where she is befriended by 2 sisters at the local masjid, that Zahra's healing truly begins. But these questions remain. Can she create a home for herself when the foundation is built on lies she's spun to protect her from the past? When a family friend recognizes her, will everything come crashing down? As Zahra tries to build a life for herself in this new place, the heart of the matter becomes clear. She can't run away forever. But can she close the rift in her family and truly fully heal? This novel expertly discusses what it means to be Muslim, explores the ways in which we find our place in the world, and takes a closer look at the experiences we have that eventually lead us to choosing hope. In her author's note, Amna Qureshi addresses the mental health themes in the book. She said, "This story is a love letter to oneself. It's the type of book I wish I could have read when I was growing up. And it's the type of book I hope brings healing and clarity to whoever reads it." Karuna Riazi, author of The Gauntlet and A Bit of Earth, enforced Amna's sentiment when she said, "Beautifully, bravely, and empathetically rendered, When a Brown Girl Flees is a vital addition to the growing Muslim young adult canon." When a Brown Girl Flees released yesterday on September 19th, so be sure to grab a copy for the teen in your life or for yourself now.
Hello, Candace here again. Before we dive into a conversation with the brilliant Hena Khan, author of many wonderful books for children and teens, including Under My Hijab, I have the pleasure of telling you about her forthcoming picture books with Lee&Low, ZAIN'S Super Friday and Behind My Doors. Early Friday morning, Zain leaps out of bed, ready to save the world from alien invaders. But his dad has other plans for Zain on this special day of the week. Dad takes Zain to the mosque and guides him through his first Jummah prayers. Zain's search for a superhero adventure leads to super-sized distractions, but the Imam welcomes Zain's playful energy and invites him to lead the prayers with him. Zain comes to appreciate this special time with his father and their community. And in a fun, heartwarming moment, Zain and his dad find the action-adventure that Zain's been looking for. Young readers will connect with Zain's vibrant imagination, as well as his enthusiasm for superheroes and aliens. For non-Muslim readers, the book serves as a friendly introduction to a Muslim practice that's observed all around the world. Come learn about the world's oldest operating library in Behind My Doors. Told from the perspective of the library itself, this beautifully illustrated story offers young readers an engaging, kid-friendly look at the history of an important landmark. Our story takes place in Fez, Morocco in 859, when a young woman named Fatima El-Fihri had the bold idea to build a school and library in her community. For centuries, notable scholars filled the library's reading rooms where they discussed, debated, and made discoveries about the world. After many, many years, the library fell into disarray until another young woman, architect Aziza Shawnee, and her team restored the building. With rich illustrations, Behind My Doors highlights the contributions of Muslim scholars and their belief that education should be available to all. Some of the most important transfers of knowledge between North Africa and Europe throughout the Middle Ages is attributed to this very library. This gorgeous book celebrates the importance of libraries as a place of discovery, learning, and community. And now I'm excited to turn the mic over to Booklist editor Sarah Hunter and the talented Hena Khan.
Thank you so much. And Hena, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
So we'll just jump right into the questions. We'll talk first about ZAIN'S Super Friday. Kids don't always get affirming experiences in religious spaces, especially energetic kids. Can you talk about why it was important to you to show an energetic kid participating in a prayer service?
Sure, yeah. And I should add that my pronouns are she, her, and also I'm a South Asian woman with tan skin, long, dark, curly hair, and dark frame glasses. And I'm wearing a melon-colored blouse and sitting in front of bookcases, like many of us, filled with colorful children's books. But to answer your question about, why I chose to write about kids and, this energetic kid in a prayer service, in the Muslim tradition, kids, and like so many others, kids do spend a lot of time at the mosque and just participate in these rituals from a very young age. And there's always a group of little ones, running around the back of the mosque, especially during congregational prayers. And it's sort of this community responsibility to take turns shushing them. And it's this test of patience really for the parents and the elders around trying to focus and pray. And of course, for the children themselves to, try to keep still and not get shushed or told to sit down. So it is this little bit of a tug of war that we see a lot of times. But, people love having the children there in spite of the disruption, because it is part of the process of them, learning to feel at home in the mosque and feeling welcome. And of course, becoming familiar with the actual steps of the prayer. And I personally know so many kids. I feel like it's a rite of passage for so many children to go through a superhero obsessed phase, where they imagine themselves to be whoever it is and to have all these powers. And so I very much had one particular friend in mind when I drafted this book, and thought it just would add another layer to appreciate what's going on in the story, but also be able to relate to, that idea of wanting to run around and play and having to put that on pause while you go through these various stages of observance of this ritual. That's very special to the community.
Yeah, for sure. So I know that picture book authors don't often get much say in illustrations, and the illustrations in ZAIN'S Super Friday are very playful. And I'm wondering if there was anything about the artwork that surprised you or helped you see new elements in the story that you didn't anticipate.
Yes, actually, totally. I love the art. I love how vibrant and energetic and colorful it is. And it's always super fun to see the way an illustrator brings themselves to the story and adds elements of their own. And Under My Hijab, we saw the way that Aaliyah added butterflies on every page, for example, which was something that was a really welcome surprise. And in this book, I just loved the way that Nez decided to make the bad guys that we had included in the books as these alien invaders. And she includes this very clever, childlike hand-drawn, well, it's hand-drawn, but like a child's hand-drawn alien figures and spaceships and things like that. And we actually changed the text as a result of seeing the art, because I had originally had it being, Zayn and his looking to battle, whatever these undescribed bad guys were. And I love the fact that she made them aliens, and we ended up, changing it to reflect that. And similarly, she also had this a sonic transmitter on Zayn's wrist, where you see it saying fun words, which is great, because we also wanted him to have some sort of gear. And initially I had written it as a sonic blaster. But when she illustrated it as this blaster of like sound on the kid's wrist, we changed it to a sonic transmitter. And I really love that, because it allowed us to avoid including anything that looked more like a weapon, which I didn't want, and we were sort of wrestling with. So all in all, it's so fun to see, the story come alive, and then all these layers, and luckily I was able to see it as it progressed and give a little bit of input, when it was, but her vision and her energy for the story is, comes through, and I love it.
One thing I really appreciated about her artwork is the way that like childlike drawing style entered into the mosque as well. And it was present in Zayn like putting on the shoes in the hallway in front of the entrance. And so all of that like childlike energy that's really big and powerful at the end is still integrated throughout the prayer service, even if he's supposed to be like tamping it down just a little bit.
Totally. I love that. Yeah. It's a good like carry throughout, where you see like how he's seeing things in this very superhero-y way, which is so fun. Love it.
So in general, in picture books, it's rather rare to see religious services depicted, especially in such detail. But for a lot of children, as you mentioned, it's a routine part of their experiences in their everyday lives. And I'm wondering if you can talk about the value of acknowledging kids' experiences of religion and faith in picture books just across the board.
Yeah. So, I do think it is something that is central to so many people's lives in different ways. And I know over the years, as I've published different books that, touch on religion in different ways, or express, Muslim life in particular, and traditions, I meet so many kids who will share how they can relate, like my family goes to church, or this reminds me of my synagogue, or whatever it is. It is such a huge part of so many people's experience. And I think for Muslim kids in particular, it is very routine. A lot of the things that we do in our religious life are just very intertwined with our daily lives. So even the fact that Muslims have, 5 times a day prayer, it just punctuates your day. The whole month of Ramadan is, an entire month of your life that is devoted to this special time. And then throughout the day, you may say special words or phrases. And so it's just very integrated into life, as it is for so many people. And I think the beauty of being able to share these traditions is that sense of community that you build, the understanding, you're really honoring these experiences as special parts of people's lives, but then also as parts of communities that treasure these things and do them together. And really just the idea of just fostering respect, for me, appreciation, and really above anything, like understanding of something that maybe even if you're not familiar with, why it means so much to people or how it works. And hopefully that just helps people understand each other better.
Yeah, and I also think there's a lot of power in recognizing some similarities across religious traditions as well. I know when I was a kid in a church and was bored and kicking my feet on the pew, I feel like I could see that in Zain as well.
I love that. Yeah, the boredom is what unites us all as children. For sure. And that's also part of it for me is this the demystification in a way. Of course, I'm writing this book for Muslim kids to be seen and included and to be able to relate to these stories, but I want other people to recognize themselves and see themselves in it too. And I love that. I love that we all have that, sort of. One of my favorite spreads in the book is when Zain is sitting on the carpet listening to the imam and you see his different expressions of boredom, because I was just like, yes, that was me as a kid. And hopefully lots of people can relate to that.
Wonderful. So I'd like to shift our focus now to Behind My Doors. Excuse me. It's a fascinating story of the Al-Qarawiyyan Library, and I'm wondering if you can tell us what drew you to it in the first place.
Yeah. So I actually first learned of the mosque, actually, that is affiliated with the university and library, the Al-Qarawiyyan Mosque, when I heard about Fatima al-Fihri, and it was actually in this book. I'll show you. It's Muslim Heritage in Our World. It's 1,001 Inventions that I got in the early 2000s, I think. And it's, this thick volume that talks about all the contributions of Muslim scholars and thinkers and so on. But the Fatima al-Fihri part is this tiny footnote in the back of like influential Muslim people. And there she is. It's just a little blurb about her. And when I came across it, I thought, oh my goodness, the oldest operating university in the world was founded by a Muslim woman. Like, that is a fact that not that many people know. And that sort of goes counter to what the Western perception often is of Muslim women. And so I felt like that was a story that just needed to be told. And I just wasn't sure how to do it because there was very little known about Fatima al-Fihri other than that she had inherited this enormous amount of wealth from her father and had decided to build this mosque that went on to become this university, that she herself was a big reader and student, and so on. But apart from that, I was like, well, I don't know much about her. And then there was I also thought about, for a picture book, which is what I wanted, since it's such a beautiful space, I didn't know if children would necessarily relate to the idea of a university in the way that I, as an adult, was so excited to learn this. And so when I learned many years later, so it was always in the back of my mind, I really would love to tell this story. And then when I came across news stories about the restoration of the library, then I was like, it all just came together. And I thought, okay, here's a story I've been wanting to tell for years. And the library, just drove it home for me because I was a library kid. It was such a huge part of my childhood. And I thought that was my chance to make it really personal. And then it just, the restoration process was so fascinating. And the fact that there were 2 women involved, not just the founder, but also the person who came in to save this library from ruin, just made it that much more exciting for me to tell. So it was definitely a long process to find the story and to decide how to tell it.
Well, so tell us a little bit about your research into the building. Was there anything you learned that you wish you could have included but didn't have space for?
So yes, for sure, because it was such a fascinating history and so long, right? Like spanning 1,200 years. And when you're trying to write a picture book that's somewhere around 500 words, you know, it's like, what do I include? And I definitely tried to keep the focus of the story on the library itself. As you mentioned, it's told from this perspective of the library itself, and that idea of this long journey and survival. But this research really, you know, just all of the expansion of the building over the years, and I include this in the author's note as well, that the architect who did the restoration talked about how fascinating it was, because there weren't blueprints. It sort of grew organically over the centuries. And even when they were restoring it, she said it was sort of like being on an expedition, and, you know, like Raiders of the Lost Ark or something like that, where you just kept uncovering different hidden rooms and things like that. So the magic of that was just so fascinating. And then, of course, even what Candace mentioned earlier, that amazing transfer of knowledge that happened between, you know, North Africa and Europe at a time where really, you know, Europe for part of that time was, you know, in the Dark Age, what we call the Dark Ages. And there was this flourishing of knowledge and research and science happening, you know, just not so far away, right, across the Strait of Tangier. And so that's just amazing to me. But I was happy to be able to touch on each of these themes in the book, but of course, you know, those could each be their own volume, I guess. And there are researchers there digging deeper into those things, but it is all just so fascinating. And the restoration itself, like the actual mechanics of restoring a building, I found really fascinating too, like diverting a river that's flowing underneath it. You know, how do you do that? Because water and books certainly don't mix.
Maybe you have to write a sequel now.
Maybe, yeah, that'd be great.
So you wrote this book in the first person from the library's perspective, and I'm wondering what you think makes a library alive.
Yeah, so I thought about that a lot, you know, when I was deciding how to present this. And you know, for me, really, as somebody who loves a library, I think about it has to be that spirit of learning and discovery and the love for books. And the part of the book that I love the most is when the library is sad and yearning for the walls to buzz with the energy of learning again, and the sharing and the discussion and the debate and the pursuit of knowledge that used to happen in those walls. And when it doesn't happen, you know, you see them just sort of declining and withering and feeling sad and wishing for it. And I just feel like it's such a different feeling. I think we're all book people, right? I think everybody who's tuned in hopefully is a book person. And we know, like, we love the hush of the library and the collective energy that comes from brains at work, you know, being stimulated. And it's such a special feeling. And I like to think of that, like our collective brain power, you know, sort of fueling the library and keeping it alive. And it's so different than being in a room with a bunch of people on their phones, right? It's just not the same. It's not the same energy that you get from people immersed in books. And so I think that's what libraries need to be alive, really, like the patrons and, of course, budgets. So on your libraries, but you know, I think that love of the library and that collective energy is really what I like to think is keeping them alive.
Yeah, for sure. The energy of people coming together in one place from all over a city.
Yeah, and a singular purpose, right? You're just there to learn something or be, you know, find yourself in a book some way.
Wonderful. I think a lot of people here would agree with you that that's what keeps a library alive, but also that they also really need library funding.
Absolutely, especially now more than ever.
Yeah. So what is so appealing for you about writing for children in particular?
So I think, you know, it's just a joy to get to write about the things that I care about. And I heard you mention it earlier in the presentations, like other authors talking about wanting the books that they wish they had as a kid. And so that's definitely part of it for me too. But, you know, I just feel so lucky that I get to write about the things that I cared about when I was a kid, but also the things I still care about now. And hopefully get to explore those ideas and themes and stories in a way that's appealing to both children and adults. And I think the beauty of getting to write for kids is that you reach more than just kids. Hopefully you're reaching the people reading these books to them and sharing the books with them. And then I just love the simplicity of the storytelling for kids. It's not fussy, it's not pretentious, it's just good storytelling. And the fact that kids are so receptive and such a wonderful, eager, thoughtful audience, that just makes it so rewarding the times I get to interact with them and get their reactions and see what they gain from the books. That's just magical to me, like to see it come full circle, and the finished product, of course, is amazing, but then the reader is what it's all about.
That's wonderful. What were the books that made you want to become a writer in the first place?
Well, so I was, like I mentioned, I was a library kid. So I spent a lot of my childhood at my local public library, but I also had a small collection of books at home that I read and reread, and I still think of those books. I had this illustrated book of fairy tales. I had Richard Scarry's Best Word Book Ever, where I used to just lay on my carpet and open that book up and just imagine stories with those characters, those pigs at the grocery store or the rabbits farming, whatever it was. And it was such great, I don't know, like ingredients, like a recipe for storytelling, to have that sort of set up that way. I had a copy of Charlotte's Web and a few of the Little House books out of order. And then there were the books that I used to check off in the library over and over again, like all of the Ramona Quimby books and A Wrinkle in Time. And it's interesting to look back now and realize how different all of the books were that I read. I wasn't specific to or loyal to a particular genre. Like, I read really widely. But the common thing about all of them was that they all just made me feel safe and, like really immersed in their world during the time that I was reading them. And I think that's what I really look for when I write now, is to capture that feeling of just being safe and in a story that holds your attention and makes you wish that you were there. Because I felt like that's often the way I felt about the books I was reading, that I just wanted to be in those pages and just live there for a little while.
It's funny you mention Richard Scarry's Best Word Book Ever, because my 3.5-year-old has that book and she does the same thing. She lays on the floor, she's got the book out in front of her, and she's like paging through and like looking at all the little individual characters and what they're doing in their day.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's, is it a universal activity? Probably not, but I think it's probably really, really common even for kids now. It's really funny, the staying power of that book. I know exactly what you mean about those little characters just feeling so, I don't know, not quite familiar, but just like malleable, maybe. Just like these are things that I can think about that you can play with, sort of like playing with blocks.
Right, totally. Yeah. And I remember like the supermarket scene, like thinking like, what would I want to eat if I went to, which fruits would I pick out of these bins, or, things like that. And definitely sparking imagination. And I still love looking at it. Now, like I should more often. Maybe I'll get new ideas.
I look at it all the time.
It's a classic. If you haven't seen it, make sure you get your hands on a copy. It's a wonderful book.
So tell us about some children's book writers or illustrators who you think deserve wider attention and acclaim today.
Oh, that's a tricky one, because I think there's so many. And as we all know, it's so much harder and getting harder for writers to get their books sold. And not only published, but then of course like to sell copies. And I just feel like more and more I'm so grateful for what Lee&Low is doing. And I feel like in the wider world, it just seems that book publishing is becoming more and more about celebrity and platform and, who you are, or what, TikTok, what TikTok following you have, than necessarily how good of a writer or storyteller you are. And that trend, I think, is really terrifying to see. Because of course, as a diverse author writing for a diverse publisher I'm on the board of We Need Diverse Books. And I just feel like the writers who are doing the hard work of sharing the stories that we have not had for far too long just universally need to be getting more attention somehow. And I feel like it's hard when you have, like I said, like the celebrity books, or like the same bestsellers that are, dominating the lists or the stores. But I feel like as, and you all know this better than me probably, but I think we need more Arab American, Native American, Pacific Islander authors specifically, but we need more of everybody. And I know so many amazing writers making beautiful books, but I would say that just overall, as a community of readers and book lovers, we just need to look a little deeper and beyond the bestseller lists and all the lists that are created and the awards, and really talk to librarians and booksellers about the books that they're excited about, and the ones that they really value, and the ones that they see kids are getting excited about. And that's amazing, like to get those recommendations, or to see, school librarians say, I saw a child go over and pick up that book and like hug it to her chest, and like that is like, oh, but you can't quantify that or necessarily, put that on a list. But I feel like there's so many, it's hard to name specifics because I would feel guilty for leaving so many other people out. But I mean, amazing talent. And, people who've been doing it for 20 years and debuts coming out now, like across the gamut, you've got all sorts. But I think we need to be a little bit careful, because I think social media is, it's a blessing and a curse in a way, because I think it does sort of feed us what we like, and then you get in that trap. And I think we just all have to try to like look a little broader. and I think, of course, everything, not because you invited me, but because I truly believe it, and I'm honored to be published by Lee&Low. But I think you are putting out amazing books by amazing writers, and I feel like all of them deserve a lot more attention and acclaim.
So I know that library workers love it when people ask them for book recommendations, especially if it's a book that they are personally excited about. That's information that everybody likes to share. So have more conversations and spend less time on the internet. My thought about
Booksellers
it.
too, right? Booksellers love hearing, like, getting and conversations. I've been at bookstores where somebody comes in asking, like, my daughter's this type of reader, or my niece is this type of reader, and I'd love to get something new. And they have a list of things they like, and it's not necessarily the one you would think. They're not only pushing Diary of a Wimpy Kid or whatever, like somebody would find at Target. And they've got really thoughtful recommendations, and they do know what's coming out, what's been successful, like with kids specifically, not just commercially.
Yeah, and I also know that a library worker would love to have that kind of interaction right now, as opposed to another kind of interaction. And they also like really good feedback. So be nice to your librarian. That's another good piece of advice.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you again, Hena, for this wonderful conversation. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. A big thank you again to our wonderful panelists, Jenny, Stephanie, Candace, Shaughnessy, and Jem. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's video recording, title list, slide presentation, and a certificate of completion. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit www.booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. Recently, ALA's Office for Intellectual Freedom reported 1,269 demands to censor library books and resources in 2022, the highest number of attempted book bans since ALA began compiling data about censorship in libraries more than 20 years ago. Join the Unite Against Book Bans campaign to help protect the freedom to read and to empower readers everywhere. Visit uniteagainstbookbans.org for more information, resources to donate, and more. We have a special announcement. We are introducing Booklist's Book Club, a year-long partnership with your favorite publishers. Each month, Booklist will showcase book club picks and supporting materials from a different publisher, offering a wide range of genres and age groups to fit the needs of any book discussion group. Mark your calendars for September, when we'll reveal the first selection from HarperCollins children's books. To find out more information, scan the QR code on this slide or visit our website. Whether your young patrons and students are visiting the library after school or stopping by on the weekends for some new items, grow your collection with Booklist. Subscribe now to get print and digital copies of Booklist, archive access to past issues, and digital access to our new publication, Booklist Reader, for only $99. Visit our website for more details. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. And one more huge thank you to our guest, Hena Khan, and the Lee&Low marketing team, and to our sponsor, Lee&LowBooks. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.